Okay, this question says in an isobaric reversible process, the ratio of heat supplied to the system dq and the work done by the system dw for an ideal monoatomic gas is, right. So we have an isobaric process. Isobaric is pressure constant. Pressure constant means that p external, p gas is same throughout the process. So in an isobaric process we can also say dq, right. dq under constant pressure condition can be written as ncp molar dt, right. ncp molar dt, and dw work done can be written as minus pdv, right. Minus pdv can also be written as pv is nrt, pressure is constant, so pdv is nrdt, so you can write it as minus nrdt. Now we need the ratio of the heat supplied and the work done, right. So we need dqp by dw, and that is going to be how much? ncp dt, ncp molar dt divided by okay, I mean work done by the system is what is being told about, so I'm not taking this minus. Work done by the system is positively, right. So as in we don't take minus. Normally what we calculate is work done on the system, right. So yeah, divided by nrdt. Now what do you know about cp molar, right. So we know that cp molar is supposed to be gamma times cv molar, or you can write this as gamma times cv molar is what? F by 2r, right. So f by 2r, right. So this is going to be, what is this ratio going to be equal to? N into gamma into cv molar was f by 2r into uh, dt divided by nr dt. So nr dt I can see is directly cancelling out. The ratio will turn out to be gamma into number of degrees of freedom divided by 2. This is a monoatomic gas. Degrees of freedom is what? 3, and your gamma is what? 1 plus 2 by f, the 5 by 3. So gamma into 3 by 2, which is equal to 5 by 2, right. So 2.5 is to 1 is the ratio of heat is to work done. So for every 1 joule of work done by the system, you have to give it 2.5 joules of heat, right. So pretty heavy a loss, whatever. So our ratio was our requirement. It is 5 by 2, which is a option. Okay, given reaction is there, 3x in gas phase plus y in gas phase giving us 3z in gas phase. Delta H is given to us as plus 35 kilojoules per mole, kilojoules. Which conditions will give the highest yield of Z at equilibrium, right? So this is obviously based on our Le-Chatelier principle. The idea is we need greater quantity of product. So what can push the reaction to go in the forward direction is what we have to see. Now there are two aspects to this, right. So this is a gas phase reaction. Everything is in gas phase, right. So I have 4 moles of gases in the reactants, 3 plus 1, and 3 moles of gases in the product. So gaseous moles are decreasing in the forward direction. So here I can do two things, right. Either directly increase pressure, right, by reducing the volume, or by like increasing, so basically I can increase the pressure one way or the other and manage to get more of the product, because in forward direction number of moles is decreasing. So whenever we increase pressure, Le-Chatelier principle says that system goes in the direction where it can relieve pressure, reduce pressure by reducing the number of gaseous moles. So if I increase pressure, more product will be found. Now delta H is given as a positive value. This is an endothermic reaction, right. So an endothermic reaction will proceed in forward direction if you give it heat, or if you increase the temperature, right. So if you increase the temperature, endothermic reaction will go in the forward direction. So yeah, what should I do here, right? Think about temperature in like this, right. So an endothermic reaction is something that requires heat, right. So when you're increasing temperature, what are you doing? It's almost as if you are throwing heat at the system. So system will do what? System will try to consume that heat, right. So endothermic direction is what it goes in if you increase temperature. Just remember this, right. So this is endothermic. So in order to increase the yield, I have to increase temperature, plus also if I increase pressure, I can see this will happen, right. So high temperature and high pressure is the A option. This is exactly what I was expecting. Increase the temperature, endothermic reaction yield will increase, and increase the pressure because number of moles is decreasing. So a higher pressure would lead to a higher yield of product, right. So our final answer is of course A option. Okay, this question says the electron gain enthalpies of halogens in kilojoule per mole are given below. Fluorine minus 332, chlorine is minus 349, bromine is minus 324, and iodine has minus 295. Halogens have a decently high value of electron affinity, and their electron gain enthalpies are huge negative values, right? Large negative values. Ideally, I would expect that fluorine should be having the highest electron affinity and hence the largest negative value of electron gain enthalpy. But what we are seeing is that the largest in magnitude negative electron gain enthalpy is that of chlorine. Why is that so? That is because of 2p, 3p. 2p 3p comparison, right? So as far as fluorine is concerned, it's a second period element, and it has like it is obviously because it only has two shells, it is a very small atom, and in a very small atom fluorine with large number of electrons, when I'm trying to add an external electron, because of this interelectronic repulsion, some amount of interelectronic repulsion will have to be overcome. So while bringing that electron into fluorine atom and making it F minus, the amount of energy released is not as high as what is seen in chlorine. And chlorine is a third period element, decently larger atom, so less electronic repulsion will be there. So as expected, chlorine will be giving out a lot of energy when an electron is added. So this specifically is what we call as 2p 3p comparison exception in your electron affinity or electron gain enthalpy values, right? So yeah, let's see. Then question says the less negative value of fluorine as compared to that of chlorine is because of, right? So electron affinity was supposed to increase from left to right and decrease from top to bottom. So ideally I was expecting fluorine to have the highest, but chlorine has the highest value. This is because fluorine is a very small atom, and in order to overcome that repulsion, some amount of energy is utilized when we are adding that electron, right? So yeah, let's read the options one by one. Strong electron repulsion in the compact 2p subshell of F. This is exactly what we discussed, right? So weak electron repulsion in the bigger 3p subshell of chlorine. Yes, I mean, you can say that is also there, right? So I mean, there is not much repulsion that is there in chlorine. That is why there is no this kind of an effect that is seen, which is seen in fluorine, right? So smaller electronegativity of fluorine than chlorine. This is wrong, right? Fluorine is the most electronegative element. What is electronegativity? It is the tendency to pull shared pair of electron. So it is already an electron which is in front of you. You are not bringing it from infinity. There is no that repulsion overcoming factor across the whole distance that is coming into picture here. So yeah, fluorine anyways is the highest electronegativity, right? 4 in Pauling scale, and chlorine has around 3. So yeah, this is definitely wrong. Other than that, A and B, both of these are fine, and D option says that both A and B are right, which is exactly the answer that we are looking for. So our final answer is D. Okay, this question says 50 ml of 0.2 molar HCl is titrated against 0.1 molar NaOH solution. What will be the pH of the solution when 20 ml of NaOH is added, right? So what is the reaction here? We have a strong acid HCl titrated against a strong base NaOH. We are going to see all neutralization go on to completion as long as one of the reactants are still left behind. So HCl plus NaOH gives us NaCl plus H2O. NaCl is a salt of a strong acid and a strong base. No hydrolysis, salt hydrolysis. Pure NaCl solution will be neutral basically. Now when I'm looking at HCl, molarity into volume in ml gives us number of millimoles. In such kind of titration questions, what we do is, for whatever volume and all is given, we'll see how much of reaction can take place. Is there a limiting reagent? Is there an excess reagent? And so on. We see what is there as number of moles under the given conditions, the volume that is given to us, what is the number of moles of different things, and based on that we decide what formula to pick, right? So here 50 into 0.2 is 5 into 2, 10 millimole of HCl is what I had originally, right? And 0.1 molar NaOH and 20 ml. So 20 into 0.1 means 2 into 1, or 2 millimole NaOH is what I've added so far. So the neutralization has started, but it has not completed. 1/5 of what is required is what I've added. Obviously, NaOH is limiting reagent. You can see it will get over, and I'll have 8 millimoles of HCl left, right? 2 millimole NaOH will react with 2 millimole HCl, give me 2 millimoles of NaCl, and also gives me 2 millimole of H2O. I'm not concerned about NaCl and H2O. As I told you, they are not something that is going to impact us. What is important for us is that HCl is still left behind. which means H plus is still left behind, which means this is an acidic solution, right? So I'm going to find out concentration of H plus as number of millimoles of H plus by total volume in ml. So number of millimoles is 8 divided by volume in ml 50 plus 20. Oh wow, 70. Yeah, so H plus concentration is 8 by 70, right? So what is pH? pH will be equal to negative log of concentration of H plus. So 8 by 70, you can find the reciprocal of this, right? Minus log X is log of 1 by X, right? So this will turn out to be log of 70 by 8. 70 by 8 is what? Approximately somewhere around 9, right? So 2 by 8 short of it, so 8.75, whatever. You can write it approximately as 9. So pH is approximately log 9. Log 9 is what? 2 log 3, right? Log of 3 square, so 2 comes outside, so 2 log 3, 0.96, right? So approximately 0.96 is what I'm seeing. I mean, obviously slightly less than this because yeah, so this was not supposed to be 9, right? So this was slightly less than 9, so it will be slightly less than 0.96. Looking at the options, I can see a 0.95 here, which is closest to my answer. So my final answer is A option. pH is 0.95 when 20 ml of NaOH is added. This question says 19.6 gram of a given gaseous sample contains 2.8 grams of molecules, which specifically if they were alone as a gas, density would have been 0.75 grams per liter. 11.2 grams of this gas molecules, where the density alone would have been 3 grams per liter, and 5.6 grams of this particular gas molecules, whose standalone density would have been 1.5 grams per liter. All the density measurements are made at STP. Calculate the total number of molecules present in the sample. Answer has to be reported as n into 10 to the power 23. We have to find n. Avogadro's number we have to assume as 6 into 10 to the power 23 is given to us, right? Now let's see what is happening here. See, we have 90.6 in all, in which 2.8, 11.2 and 5.6 are the three different weights. We have been given their densities, individual standalone densities. So if I divide weight by density, I should be able to get individual volumes. If I add all the three volumes, I will be getting the total volume, right? Avogadro's law says that equal volumes of all gases contain equal number of molecules. So it doesn't matter whose volume I'm taking. I'll add all the volumes and I'll divide it by 22.4. Why 22.4? Because it is given STP. So if I divide it by 22.4, total volume by 22.4, I should get the number of moles. Once I get the number of moles, I'll multiply it by Avogadro's number to get the value of total number of molecules, right? So let's see. So the total volume, I can write it to be equal to the sum of individual volumes. So which will be what? 2.8 divided by 0.75 will be that of the first gas, and 11.2 divided by 3 is the volume of the second gas, and the third gas will be how much? 5.6 divided by 1.5, right? So all of these denominators you can see, right? 0.75 is what? 3 by 4. This second denominator is 3 and the third denominator is also 1.5. So in order to make this calculation easier, I'm going to multiply numerator and denominator by 4 here, and I'm going to multiply numerator and denominator by 2 here, so that all the denominators become 3, right? So the final answer will be something divided by 3. What is that? 4 into 2.8 is 8 plus 3.2, 11.2. Oh, nice. Plus 11.2 plus, okay, this is also pretty nice, right? So what do we have here? 5.6 into 2 is also 11.2. Nice. So 11.2 into 3 divided by 3, which means that the total volume, V total, is actually 11.2 liters. Perfect. So if we know the total volume, number of moles is V divided by 22.4 at STP. So 11.2 divided by 22.4, or half mole, right? So half mole is what we have. Half mole. Okay, so molecules will be how much? Total number of molecules, of course. There will be different number of molecules of first gas, second gas and third gas. But yeah, total number of moles is this. Total number of molecules will be how much? Number of molecules will be equal to half into Avogadro's number, which is 6, half into 6 into 10 to the power 23. So we'll get 3 into 10 to the power 23. But yeah, we had to report it as some n into 10 to the power 23. Looking at it, we can see n is 3, which is obviously A option.